there's this magic in music, and I think he's really tuned into it, and that's probably part of it, is that it's just the process of making it is sort of could go any way, I guess. I think that's part of it, is that when people are making music together, that creates this energy in the room that translates itself into the sound.
Hi, and welcome to From the Liner. I'm Bailey Tyler, and today we're coming at you from 800 East Studios, and I am joined by singer-songwriter Alex Lotito. Alex, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about your music. So how would you describe yourself further than just singer-songwriter?
Well, I play guitar as well. I guess singer and songwriter kind of gets to the crux of it. I like playing guitar, but I really enjoy trying to craft songs and put recordings together. So, genre-wise, kind of acoustic folk, I guess. I've got a band called the Titos here in Atlanta, and we've been playing here probably for 6 or 7 years now. And then I've been working on another quartet recently as well, which is sort of, I guess not that that's already in my name, I guess, but that's just my name, Alex Lotito. And we're calling it the Unincorporated DeKalb Liberation Front right now. Maybe that will change, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're working on a record, and it's 4-piece and stuff. So yeah.
So self-titled, but 4 pieces.
Yeah. So Joseph Fall, who was just here playing with me, is a great guitar player, and we used to be roommates for a while actually, and we kind of had a home studio. And he moved out about, I guess, a little less than a year ago, and he's developing his own home studio now. So some of my gear is living there, and we're doing a lot of recording there. And then our good friend Paul Stevens is playing drums. He's in a lot of bands here, including he does a thing called Variety Stomp, which is, I guess, a one-man show. He used to have a thing called Moloch, where it was just 2 of them, but it sounded like a 12-piece band because they're all playing keyboards and drums and guitars and everything simultaneously. And then our buddy Zach Milster is playing bass. So he's also in Night Palace and some other bands around here. So.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like all of you guys definitely have like hands in a bunch of different projects all at once.
Yeah, that's how it always is. I feel like as a singer-songwriter, that's my hand's just kind of in this project, because it's my thing, But nobody needs a singer-songwriter in their band, but everybody needs every other instrument. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So with this current project, the self-titled one, what's the most like? It's 4 people that like this band, or do you have any comparisons that you compare yourself to?
It's kind of in Wilco territory with some of the songs, I guess, and maybe some Elliott Smith sort of sounds. Of course, the Bobby Charles record that I picked, I don't know if that's totally our sound, but I love that record. And the first show we played at Waller's a while ago, we don't do a lot of covers, but we covered Must Be in a Good Place Now, and in a way this record has kind of permeated my friend group, I think. And it's not a super popular record, but it's got a place in a lot of our hearts, I think.
Yeah, not popular. I didn't know about it when you told me.
Yeah.
And the album, obviously, that we're talking about is self-titled Bobby Charles.
Yeah.
Bobby Charles.
Bobby Charles.
My first listen through, I was like, oh, there's a lot of songs on here that I've definitely heard before.
Yeah, for sure.
But before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit more about you and your musical journey and kind of just like your experience with music. So like, what is your kind of first memory of music? Did you always love it? Kind of, was it something that you discovered later in life?
My Aunt Cookie, my dad's sister, got me an acoustic guitar for Christmas when I was in elementary school, and it kind of sat in the closet for a couple of years. And then later in elementary school, another friend started playing guitar, so I dusted it off and started figuring it out. And then I really like, I think I started gigging when I was in 7th grade or something. So we played the old Masquerade back when it was, kind of
it was janky, and you kind of every time you were in like purgatory or heaven, was fearful that the next person to jump would like cave in the floor.
I've had some water drip from a pipe at the Masquerade, but that's also happened at Smith's and some other places. So we've dealt with some leaks over the years. But yeah, we used to play Maddie's Rib Shack a lot. So there was a guy, Chicago Joe Jones, who is in Jamaica now, I think, but he was a guitar teacher to a lot of my friends growing up, and we used to do his camp when we were young. And they're still doing the rock and blues camp here, but a lot of my friends who I still play music with and have really been lucky to grow up making songs with, I met through that. And yeah, I think that's inspired the Atlanta scene, or like a pocket of the Atlanta scene a lot. The influence he had on us.
And so is that kind of how you got into the type of genre of music that you play, or was that, you kind of fell into that acoustic folk Americana sound? Or kind of how did you
I
discover
guess so.
that?
I mean, I've always primarily written on acoustic guitar, and but I've played mostly electric guitar in bands that I've been part of. But yeah, I think the Tito's, we had a good show actually last weekend, and we still do things from time to time. But I think during the pandemic, things kind of slowed down a little bit, and I think also I started doing more home recordings and just trying to produce songs on the acoustic guitar. So that's definitely been the direction that I've been embracing or diving into more lately.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, and this might just be like a personal thing for me, but I feel like folk and Americana and that type of music and like having inspiration from that, especially this album that we're about to talk about, like Bobby Charles, I wouldn't know of it. Like it's kind of
Yeah,
not, it wasn't stuff that was playing on the radio growing up. Like, I feel
yeah,
like unless you knew somebody that knew about it or like your parents taught you,
yeah, yeah.
it's kind of like an odd way to discover it. So like, is that kind of how you discovered it or?
That record,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure when I first heard it. I think it was actually during the pandemic the Tito's started trying to do a remote recording of a cover of one of the songs. So we were recording at our houses, and then, I remember recording bass DI outside 6 feet apart from each other, and I had my little recording rig there. So we never finished it just because we don't really finish things. But I must have known about the record before then. And, but Joseph, I would give credit to because he's from Louisiana, and I think he grew up with that record and definitely knew it before I did. And I think I said probably I learned about it either directly or tangentially from him a long time ago. But yeah, he when we were rehearsing the tunes the other night, he told me that his old guitar teacher knew Bobby, so I was able to talk to him on the phone for a while in like primary source research mode. And he had some cool anecdotes and stuff and shed some light on his personality. I think another thing that I liked about Bobby, or that I like about Bobby Charles, but I might have got wrong, it was sort of a romantic notion that he didn't care so much about the business side and he just didn't like touring. So, he just focused on making the music and didn't worry about the material success of it so much. And he kind of straightened me out on that. He was like, no, he tried. It just didn't work out. So, but at the same time, it reflects his own stubbornness that he didn't want to tour. So he just was afraid of success maybe. So I don't know. I mean, I don't do music professionally. I do it because I like doing it, and it's, I gig and stuff, but I'm not, not that there's money to be made off of it, but I'm definitely not making any. So I think that's another place where the Bobby Charles thing interests me, is the business side of it, and just not, I don't know. Yeah, I want to be romantic about it, and maybe I thought he was too, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, so going off of that, where do you fall? Clearly, you fall in that I want to romanticize what I'm doing. It shouldn't be about the money because,
Yeah.
like you said, it's not your source of income. Like you have another profession.
Well, obviously the music industry is, we shouldn't go into that probably, right? But it's got all of its problems and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the streaming, of course, has made it, like, even when I was in high school, I could sell CDs out of my car at a show or at a merch table, I guess, or at school or whatever. So, but now nobody buys CDs anymore. Most people don't have CD players. And Bobby Charles has 200,000 Spotify listeners a month. And I wonder I just wonder how he would have done in the age of Spotify. His music have been more popular with streaming? Would it have blown up? Would he have not recouped any of the expenses because, I mean, he didn't like touring, and that's how musicians have to do it today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, food for thought, I guess.
It's interesting because, yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I think it's a good hypothetical.
And I think this album, I didn't really research it until this past week because I knew some stuff about it, and I know the songs and some of the musicians that played on it. Of course, it's a lot of the people from the band, but and Dr. John and folks. But I didn't really do a whole lot of research into it. But I guess Bobby Charles, after they released it, had beef with the agent and found a loophole in the contract so that they would stop producing it. And then it was re-released in the 90s. So there's a whole history of this album that's kind of
Interesting.
complicated. But
Okay,
that
yeah.
also makes it harder to listen to it because it was pulled off the radio stations at the time. it had a resurgence, I guess, in the 90s. So.
Well, yeah, no. So, I mean, I guess I should like formally introduce it. So today
Yeah.
we were talking about Bobby Charles
Yeah.
from 1972, which after you say that, and because I did know about the beef, I thought it was just a money thing, and I didn't realize that it also like had it pulled off of the airwaves and kind of stopped distribution. Like you said, it was recorded largely with the band, so it's a self-titled album by him, but it's really...
I don't think all of them were there. Like Robbie Robertson wasn't there, but Rick Danko was the co-producer on it, and then you can hear Garth playing, you know, accordion, and organ, and everything. And
there's speculation that all of them actually did have a part in it, even though they're not all listed on it.
yeah,
But that's speculation. It's stuff that I saw on the internet, so you know, who knows how true or not true that
I
is.
think everything on the internet is vetted and
yeah, no, if it's
true.
if it's
Like, if it's on the
written
internet, you
down,
can trust it,
like
is
it
what I
clearly.
yeah, I'd trust that.
My favorite thing in my research, and I let's go off of this point, is didn't know anything about Bobby Charles. Listened to the album. Some of it definitely sounded familiar, so I was like, all right, like I definitely am aware of this, but I didn't know anything about the guy. Did some research, and he is credited with founding what is known as swamp pop.
Swamp pop.
Which I thought was just, one, an incredible name for a genre.
Yeah.
And two, very fitting for what this sounds like.
Yeah, it's cool when your music invents a whole genre. So yeah.
Yeah.
Like, not to conform, but have to have the titles conform to your music, I guess, is cool. But,
Which, off of that, I want to ask you this question with this album, because he was from Louisiana. This album very much influenced by Louisiana and that sound, but it was recorded in
Woodstock.
I don't know. Do you think that, because you were from Atlanta, you record in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Do you see that having like an effect to what this album was? Like, do you think that, you know, it would have been different if it was recorded in Louisiana versus it being recorded in Woodstock?
Well, I mean, I guess the biggest difference, of course, is the musicians that play on it, because those guys were in Woodstock. And although I don't know if Dr. John was living in Woodstock or if they flew him up for it, but all those, I mean, this was when the band guys were living in Big Pink, that house that they had up there. And I guess Bobby Charles fell in contact with them, and then they ended up playing on the record. So it definitely, you know, wouldn't sound the same if Levon Helm wasn't playing drums or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely. But also he's bringing, that's the other crazy thing about Bobby Charles, is he's bringing the tunes. So of course they have that swamp Louisiana sound on them, and they know that. And then Dr. John's playing keys, so it's got a whole lot of, like, you know, New Orleans, Louisiana influence on it. But Bobby Charles didn't play an instrument, and he just sang. So like, that trips me out. Like, it's so out of his control what the record actually sounds like, because he just sings the melody and then the band kind of figures out how it's supposed to sound.
Yeah, well, I mean, not even the melody sometimes. I don't know if
it's
you
just on
know
paper.
his songwriting process at all.
I've heard some. I mean, I think I read somewhere that he wrote stuff down, but then I've also heard that he would have a melody. Like for example, he wrote that tune, Walkin' to New Orleans, and I think, if it wasn't that one, then maybe it was another one, but See You Later, Alligator. I think he called into Chess Records, sang them the song. They signed him based off of what he sang over the telephone or something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
But and also, like, most of the time too, he would just have lyrics, maybe like a little like tune, but
Sure, yeah.
he didn't play any instruments. He didn't know how to. He didn't know anything about chords or anything. So he would come with lyrics and just literally talk to these musicians and be like, "I'll tell you when it sounds right," because he like didn't have the vocabulary or like understand the, you know, scales or any way to talk. So he'd just be like, "I just play this," and then like once it gets somewhere, I'll tell you, yeah, that's it. That'll fit my lyrics.
There was some Willie Nelson quote that I had where I asked, "What chord do I play?" And he said, "Just play all your chords and I'll tell you when you hit the right one." So yeah, really trial and error. But also I heard that he only did one take, or maybe two, but it was just, you know, they press record. They wouldn't even rehearse it before then. They would just kind of hear the song, and then, I mean, I don't know how much of this stuff is stuff of legend versus the truth, but I want to believe that. And
So which songs on this stick out to you the most?
well, there is Must Be in a Good Place Now, of course, is probably the single, maybe. And Small Town Talk is great. Those are probably the big two. We did homemade songs, which I love, but I didn't know until recently also that wasn't on the original record, but it was part of the extended album. And I'm like a poser who I guess just listens on Spotify and doesn't know what's real and what's not. But that was, I dig that song a lot. And Tennessee Blues. I mean, they're all good. But I guess those are kind of the ones that really stand out to me.
What in particular? Because I know obviously you brought this to the conversation because it influences you in some way, shape, or form. Kind
Yeah,
of what
yeah.
is what are the big like the biggest influences kind of that you do take away
From that
this?
record
Yeah.
in particular? That's a good question. I mean, as far as genre goes, I'm not a swamp pop musician, so it's probably not so much the actual music itself, but maybe this is me projecting on the past just from the research that I did. But I think it's awesome, this idea of letting the musicians that you play with shape the song. And I think sometimes, when you make a demo, they talk about demoitis and getting too connected to what idea you have of the song, that you don't let the magic unfold in the studio. So part of that process is really mysterious to me. And it seems kind of, there's this magic in music, and I think he's really tuned into it. And that's probably part of it, is that it's just the process of making it is sort of could go any way, I guess. There's that. There's the just the vibe. I know maybe we're not supposed to use that word, but it's just got a vibe, the whole record, and it's so loose, and it feels like it's could fall apart at any second of some of those songs. So that's part of it, and I like I like his voice too. I mean, I think he's got a great voice, and he sings the tune and doesn't overperform at all. And maybe that's where if I have like a direct link, it's not so much the instrumentation and stuff, but the singing style and stuff. Just back in the pocket, kind of singing the song, not doing too much.
Yeah, but there's still so much emotion and depth to his voice as well, though. I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely, you're right, it's not performative, but there is still this heart to
Yeah,
it.
I think I guess that's kind of what I mean, is that it sounds very sincere and attached to whatever he's feeling.
Yeah.
And his songs also seem really, I don't know, connected to, like there's all these stories about the way that he's inspired. Who was it, Fats Domino, that he said, I don't have a ride to New Orleans. So he said, start walking. And then he wrote Walking to New Orleans after that. And, when he was in Woodstock, he was on the lam, I guess, like avoiding some charges in Nashville that also later complicated things. But that homemade songs, the lyrics of that feels like somebody's kind of on the lam in New York and wants to go back to Louisiana, but maybe can't. And it's cool the way that his songwriting connects to his life. It's songwriting is therapeutic and based off reality a lot of the time. So yeah.
I mean, and you're right, like the songs that he's telling, like definitely are very personal and emotional, but yet they're so universally understandable.
Yeah. It's a fine line to balance. They're making things personal enough that your imagery draws people in, but at the same time making it not so specific that other people can't relate to it. So that's a difficult balance to find. And then another balance, this is probably more in the Tito stuff, but the sort of juxtaposition of songs that sound happy with sad lyrics, or songs that sound like real downers, but the lyrics are fun and happy. That's always that's something that he's kind of a master of as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's something in that dichotomy,
it's
like that
duality of
juxtaposition.
man or whatever. So.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something that we were just talking about a little bit ago in terms of like how the band was also a big part of this album, and how with your current project, self-titled Alex Lotito, it is named after you, but it's a 4-piece.
Yeah.
And so you were just talking about that magic of kind of letting the band kind of come together and create. What is it about that full band sound that you think is, and we could talk about this album, we could talk about your own project, you could talk about both in this, but what is it about that full band sound that to you resonates more than just singer-songwriter with a guitar?
Yeah, I always feel naked if I just have a guitar, and I don't perform. I've done performances like that before, but I don't do it a whole lot, and I feel lucky to play with good musicians a lot of the time. But you can tell they're having fun on that record. You can tell like the parts that they're doing are very intentional, but they're kind of loose and they're listening to each other. And I mean, there's even some lines where you can hear them talking in between songs, like let Amos start this one or whatever. I think that's part of it, is that when people are making music together, that creates this energy in the room that translates itself into the sound. And the last Alex Lotito record, the LP, was very much a remote recording project. I don't think anything was tracked live. It was, you know, and that was sort of necessity. We're recording it during the pandemic,
Yeah.
and then spilled over until after the vaccine and everything. But I liked that project, and for me, it was different to shift away from live recording because that's all I'd done before, and then to get to focus on taking multiple takes and you know, experimenting with different overdubs and stuff in a very different way. Not that you can't do that when it's live, but you know, it's just the approach is very different. But you miss the energy of the room and the sort of trial and error of working with other people, the jokes that you're making in between tracks, the energy always transmits itself into the sound. So
Do you find that energy also, I guess, in terms of like live performance? Do you also prefer performing live, or do you still like the, you know, even live studio setting? Like, do you have a preference of that?
I don't know. I mean, I love playing a show, so it's fun when, you know, there's a bunch of bands together and you know, you've got it's good to be in a room and playing stuff live. Like it's kind of like I was talking to Joseph about that a while ago, but it's sort of like the sand painting where it's only done one time and then, you know, it kind of blows away. So there's something kind of cool about that. But I love working in the studio and taking the time to record things and you know, checking tones and dials and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I do consider myself more of a songwriter than a musician. So in some way, I do feel more comfortable on the studio recording end. But there's a rush playing music live, and I love that too. So yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about your process in the studio then. Are you somebody that goes in with, I have all these ideas and we don't know what we want to make yet, or I know exactly what I want to make and we're just going to do that and walk out? Kind of how do you take advantage of, you know, every project that you kind of...
Yeah, I think, I mean, we kind of follow the basic, you know, I make an acoustic demo usually, and then we will rehearse it and learn parts, and then we'll track it live in the studio. That's how we're doing the current record for the most part, with the exception of a couple songs where we're still doing them piecemeal or starting with just acoustic guitar. I think the Tito stuff we used to do would be more collaborative songwriting, and I mean, usually starts with one of us making the idea in a demo or something, but then the rehearsal project process is maybe we're figuring things out more and then recording them live. So yeah, I mean, not too different, not wildly different projects or approaches to the music. I'm definitely not a like sit down at a desk and churn a song out kind of guy. A lot of songwriters will make it, they're very disciplined about that, and I've done that at times, and sometimes it's cool to hold yourself accountable, but I'm a when the spirit moves you sort of guy.
Yeah.
And I think Bobby Charles was too, from everything I've read about him. So
Do you have like specific, because I feel like we kind of just discussed that too, like it feels like he had a lived experience and kind of just came up with a song with that. Are there like specific things that influence you more than others, in terms of like, you know, I don't know, like I go for a walk, or, you know, I'm taking a shower, or something even...
Definitely some shower moments.
Yeah.
Definitely, and every day got a shower. I think I teach literature too, so I think I've been finding more like book inspiration lately, and there are definitely some literary allusions in some of the songs that we're currently working on. So that one, Ophelia, that we played, I was at the school that I used to work at, and students in the adjacent class to mine were doing monologue performances from Hamlet, and this one student just did this awesome performance of Ophelia's monologue. You know, she sings some, Ophelia does, and then she talks, and she's like, you know, her dad just died and everything. Spoiler alert. I was just, that's it. You know, you don't really need to edit that much. The text just kind of works. So I've made, you know, some edits and changed some words to make it rhyme and stuff, but a lot of the words in that song are just from the monologue, and I just kind of pieced them together. So there's some literary references, but then also lived experience. Definitely, you know, art reflects reality. So I find myself doing that a lot. Experience something, feel sad, write a song about it, feel a little better. It's the cycle, you know?
I think it says a lot about you too, that you feel confident and comfortable enough to even like have those experiences and share them so publicly in a musical setting as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not everything in life is, open to songwriting, but for sure, yeah, I think it's kind of it's cathartic, it's therapeutic, and that's kind of I think what I enjoy about songwriting is the internal monologue as well. In addition to, of course, performing and playing and collaborating, but it's a way of getting to know yourself and stuff.
Your voice, especially on the Alex Lotito stuff, and in the Titos too, but is it's so emotional, it's so gritty, it's so raw. It lends itself very, very well to the emotion of the songs that you have, but it also lends itself very well to the genre
Thanks.
that you perform in. And so I want to ask with that, is it just a happy accident that your voice fits the genre so well, or like do you kind of lean into that is, where your skill set lies?
I think it's the you write with the tools that you have. So any songwriting that I do on the guitar is gonna like follow the finger patterns that I know to some extent, and I think the songs I write are gonna fit in my vocal range because of that. Probably it would be cool to try to write for another singer. I've never really done that, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's all connected. So I think the songs that I write are gonna have to fit my voice. I will say that I grew up singing more blues and kind of belting, and that Tito show we hadn't played in a while, and then we played last weekend. It's just I'm projecting and belting with that band, and it's a loud band, and my buddy Zach bangs the drums, so I'm trying to often get over the top. But it's just my singing style is very different, and then I think recording at home allowed me to come back, and I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's very much a different singing style. It's more like what I do alone when I'm just practicing and writing.
Yeah. I mean, in the Titos too, it was a question that I did want to ask you is because I did, while researching this, listen to both your projects.
Yeah.
And the Titos, I really liked them because it's very much more of that, like, classic, like, 70s rock almost.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw the show Daisy Jones and the Six.
I know that Blake Mills, who's one of my favorite musicians, did the soundtrack for it, I think, or was at least involved in the production of it.
Yeah.
So I've listened to the soundtrack, and I like that record.
I was going to say that specifically the tracks by Titos,
Yeah.
that first song sounds like
Whoever you are.
could literally be part of that soundtrack. Like
Cool.
it's very much of that
That's
vibe.
good
It's very
company.
cool. But you have kind of shifted from that because there's definitely much more going on sonically in that band than there is in terms of just like volume and energy.
Yeah.
And you kind of have shifted into this softer, almost more introspective kind of space. Do you think that was just like kind of a natural progression of you musically and kind of where it's going, or was that an intentional shift of I just want to do something different?
I don't know. I mean, I think it reflects some circumstances for sure, and just like life stuff. And we still do the Tito stuff, and it's fun, and I still like that. But yeah, I think it's I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of intentional, and I've leaned into it. But I already said this, I guess, but I do think that the pandemic just shifted everything, and that's not a unique experience that I have. I think a lot of people experience that, but just shifting to that home recording kind of made me reconceptualize my voice a little bit.
But I do kind of want to dive into the fact that, like, you mentioned that you are a teacher by nature, which notoriously very demanding, very difficult, very not always getting the rewards and the credits that are due.
The summers are chill, but yeah.
But I would also argue that being a local musician has very similar demanding, you got to self-promote, you got to make all the music, you got to book all this stuff. What is it about these two things that are so demanding and they take so much heart for, not always the biggest reward, but, still rewarding enough?
Well, I think this is going to sound cliche, but it's true. They both have an inherent reward to them. So teaching is fun, and you get to see your students grow, and you get to think about literature all day or history or whatever topic you're studying. So it's kind of a life of the mind sort of thing. And music's the same way, like it's the process of making the music that's probably like that's what it's about, and the experience of doing it is fun. So the business side I don't really care about so much, although I do try to do some stuff to keep playing shows and stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is fun. Yeah.
But yeah, so what's next for you?
Well, we're in a bit of a hiatus right now. I'm working on booking something at the Earl, but haven't yet confirmed that. But hopefully we'll be announcing a show soon for like, spring, and we've been kind of having our heads in the studio, recording. We're doing it over at Joseph's place and some recording in my place, and probably got a couple more sessions and some songs that are still in progress, but we're really taking our time with it and not doing it in one day or trying to rush through it. It's just doing things as they come. So I'm excited about the sounds we're getting right now and excited to kind of start finalizing some of these tunes.
That's awesome. That's super exciting. And where can people find you? Socials? Streaming?
We're on Spotify, either the Titos or Alex Lotito. My Lotito is my last name, and I'm on Instagram for music promotion and stuff. And yeah, I don't think we're on Craigslist anymore, but
keyword.
Yeah.
Before I let you go,
Yep.
we kind of hinted and alluded that we'd already previously recorded it. You will be doing a live rendition of one of your own songs and also a cover. So why don't you tell me what song you chose to cover for the Bobby Charles album?
We did homemade songs. Joseph Fall and I. Joseph Fall is who I was talking about earlier, great musician and from Louisiana, so I think he feels these songs on maybe a deeper level. But it's a song that's added on at the end of the record. It's part of the extended release from the 90s, so I didn't even know that it wasn't on the original album, but it sounds like it's recorded up there in Bearsville and Woodstock, and it's got fiddle and percussion, and it's kind of somewhere between F sharp, I think, so it's kind of weirdly out of tune, but it's just a gem of a song, and it sounds like it comes from the heart from Bobby, so I like it a lot.
And last question.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, if Bobby was still with us, he could cover one of your songs.
Man, and the band's playing on it too. All those guys.
They can still play on it too.
Oh, I don't even know. I like that song "Time at Home." That's off the self-titled record, but it's kind of got some cool spaces for guitar work, and if Garth could put a organ on it or something, that could be pretty cool too. So,
awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated our time.
Thank you so much.
Today.
This was great.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you so much to our sponsors, 800 East Studios and Shiva Hut West Midtown, for providing us food today. And stick around because you're about to see a live performance of two of Alex's songs.